aloha in out there. Spread a little aloha around the world. And breakfast with Bob.
Thank you, Poncho Man. Welcome, everybody, back to Breakfast with Bob, our Nice World Championship edition. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by Master Spas, SFuels Go Longer, Fly Human Fly, Deboer Wetsuits, Quintana and our Challenged Athletes Foundation. We've now raised $178 million and sent out over 48,000 grants to challenged athletes around the world. Our first guest for our Nice World Championship edition is Kat Matthews, one of our favorite people on the planet. Kat, how you doing?
Good. Wow. First guest. I feel super privileged. So
well, you should. I mean, look at
maybe I was the most available early on.
You've had such a great year. When I look at third at T100 London, and you win at Ironman Victoria. You got second at Alcatraz. The range there of sort of medium distance and long distance, and obviously winning Ironman Texas for the second time. That's your mixture of being able to race at the longest distance and at the medium distance. Seems like you've got that pretty dialed in right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the results look like. I don't know what to say to that.
You're doing everything right.
My main target was Nice, secondly the Ironman Pro Series, and as a bonus the T100 Series. But having performed well at the T100 Series and quite early on, I am now even more sort of motivated to make them all a sort of level playing field of excitement. But Nice still holds a lot more excitement and sort of passion in my heart.
Well, and the thing with Nice, it's so different. When you're talking about 8,000 feet of climbing, you don't see that on a regular Ironman course. In our triathlon world, most of our courses are a little cookie cutter-ish and stay away from 8,000 feet of climbing. How have you trained for this? Have you been training on the course? Have you been training other places?
Yeah, I mean, Nice, I think it's special because of that, because of the course, but also because it's the one day of the entire year where, everyone is trying to be their absolute best. Yes. And at the moment, all the other races, everyone's trying to be their best, but it's not the one day of the year. Like, it's not so, no. It makes it matter more. But how have I trained differently? Honestly, I don't think I've trained at all differently, which could be a downfall or could not be, but I guess also I'm not in control of my training, my coaches. So maybe I don't see the nuances, but maybe they're there. I've been out to Nice. Yes. We did obviously the race there in 2019. It was my first sort of big pro experience. There's 70.3, slightly different, I know, but similar in terms of the atmosphere and sure. The general sort of terrain. And then, we did 3 days straight after T100 London, 3-4 days on the course, having a look at the more specifics of it, I guess, yes. And testing a few different bits of kit, but generally just gaining some confidence because I don't think I was giving it enough credit before we went. And then when I went, I was like, whoa, this is going to be very challenging. And it really lit a lot of excitement and nerves in me for the race.
Well, and especially because people talk about the climbing, but the descending is scary. That's something you have to practice over and over again, because it's one thing to do it on your own, but when there's other people on the course at the same time, it just changes the dynamics of the racing.
Yeah, I mean, the climbing element of it is just confidence, knowing yourself, pacing, either using data or not using data. It's like you said, it's more black and white. But the descending skill, there's two obviously main sections where I think there's like 3 or 4 minutes to be gained just by being a better cyclist.
Yes.
And sure, maybe practice helps, but I think that I'm not sure that much practice. Triathletes, we haven't got the time or the capability to just put ourselves there, because the compromise to your other training sort of sports. So obviously swimming has to be a bit of a priority. So you can't just live on the, you can't without a compromise elsewhere. So we opted for just a few days. And power in my eyes is, for me, as a sort of like my profile as a cyclist was where I was going to focus my efforts in terms of training, rather than spending weeks and weeks practicing my descending, where I could maybe gain 5 seconds. I think for me, it's going to be more about 5 hours of power.
5 hours of power. That's going to be, and then getting off and running after that. That's what's going to be fascinating to watch how that. Fortunately, the run is as much as a bike course is one of those things where you can get off the front and hide. The run is just the opposite, because you see each other over and over and over again. Which I like. It's obviously from a media. When we were there last year, what blew me away, everybody was beforehand going, "Oh, 4 loops is going to be so awful," but the reality was there was a lot of people who came to watch who didn't come to watch the race. They just happened to be on the promenade at 10 o'clock at night, or halfway through the day. And so all of a sudden you got all these new triathlon fans who are going to watch you guys race. Never seen the sport before. I bet you the number of people who are going to get into the sport after watching it in Nice is going to be pretty amazing.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, the crowd is always amazing, and to know that you're sort of there performing, you're racing, you're doing it for yourself, but you're sure there's a spectacle to be had. But for me, it's more about the fact I'm going to be able to see exactly where everyone is, and constantly track that. Like that motivates me. I want to know exactly what I've got to do to win or to perform at my best on the day. Like I find that really engaging. I way prefer that to the sort of time trial. Just you do your best effort and see where it gets you.
Yeah. Well, and when I look at World Championships with, you getting 4th at 70.3 Worlds and 2nd in Finland in 2023 at the Worlds, and then 2nd to Daniela Ryf in one of the greatest races that she ever had in 2022. You obviously like the spotlight, and you like when everybody's there knowing that they're not thinking, I'm just racing, I'm training through this and I'm going to Ironman Arizona. That's my A list. I'm just faking my way through this. Everybody is there because they want to win the biggest title in the sport.
Yeah, it really motivates me.
When you look back at that, I love the race in St. George, because it was one of those races where people were sort of counting Daniela out after her race in Oceanside and saying, this woman she's had it, she's done. And she went to Sedona, which was very much like St. George, and just put her head down and said, I don't think I'm done here. But I love the fact that she was looking to mix it up and chat. And when you guys are going back and forth a little bit, she was encouraging, right? She's like, this is great. Let's keep this going.
Yeah, it was pretty special, to be honest. Obviously it was my first experience of a big Ironman World Championships, and
yes.
I was a bit sort of blown away by that experience, and it probably pushed me a bit too much. I think I overdid it a bit because I was so engaged in that element of racing Daniela Ryf, and I say that still with the same, like, Daniela Ryf. It's not like that was how it used to be. She was really, really great. And I think she knew how well she performed that day. And so she shared how impressed she was, because she knew how good her performance was. So she was therefore super impressed. And I think I took a lot of lessons, like professionalism and mutual respect and respect for my pit. I learned a lot from that race of just how she went for it so bravely. And I hope one day that I'll be able to do something similar.
Wow. And the other thing that day is, here you've got one Ironman World Champion that you're going back and forth with for first 70 miles or so. And then in the run, you've got the 2019 Ironman World Champion, Annie Hogg, who's considered the best runner in the sport. And everybody's going, okay, Kat's in second, but eventually she's going to get run down. And she's mile 6, she's 6 minutes down, 13.1, 2.5 down. At 20, it's 2 minutes. Then at 24, it's 3 minutes. Kat,
I think she got within 20, 30 seconds, but never saw me. I think it was close.
Wow. And I mean, you take something away from that too, right? Where you never doubt yourself. You just keep going.
Yeah. I mean, I had already accepted in that first half marathon that she was going to catch me. I think whatever it was, 8 minutes, and I was just having the most horrible time. That was a marathon of, attrition, not a fun race experience for me at that point. And I think sometimes you just find yourself there and you have to mentally decide what your sort of, best case scenario is. But I hope to be in a position where I have the confidence to outrun Anne, not just tolerate a gap. And I think, I've had some really great runs this season. So I
Yes,
don't
you
know
have.
how this Nice bike course will hit the legs, but I assume it's similar to St. George.
Yeah. Well, that's the
You've
thing
got
is you've
that.
had such good success at St. George, which is obviously a very hilly bike course, followed by a very hilly run as well. So
Yeah,
this will allow you to really show off your running prowess, which is pretty cool.
we'll see.
When you look, I mean, obviously that race was so important to you because you got this little battle with Daniela Reef, and she's giving you props because you had a phenomenal day. When you look back at all of your racing, what do you look back as the most important races for you that you've learned something that helps you, that continues to help you today?
Wow. It's a good question. I think it's easy to suddenly say, that race I was really brave and it paid off, or this race. But
Yeah.
I guess just recently,
Mhm.
I raced San Francisco pretty,
Alcatraz.
like carefree. I was coming off the back of a disappointment at Ironman Hamburg, and we just flew straight out to Alcatraz and just raced the T100 there, and it was this carefree attitude of I just have to turn up on the morning and give it my best shot. And I
Yeah.
think that attitude, I've learned that works for me the best. The challenge is that obviously with a world championships, you have to put the effort into, I think, to, learning about the course and understanding it more. So it's very hard to keep the carefree attitude when it means so much more. So that's my ongoing, probably career challenge, is to keep the carefree. I just got to do my best, and that professionalism of really rigid structure that works for some people as well on just that
Well,
side.
the cool thing with Alcatraz is that's such a legendary race, jumping off the boat and swimming in the cold water. And, now the bike ride and the run are different than the traditional Alcatraz race, but still there's certainly some excitement that goes along when you're racing a legendary course. And obviously you've got Taylor Knibb, who's at the top of her game right now in a different time zone. But just being in that race and jumping off the boat, that's sort of a cool experience. And I know you like things that are unique and different.
Yeah, and honestly, that's one of the features of Nice to me. It's different. The women have never raced here before, on this circuit, in this environment, in this era of triathlon. And
Right.
I think it just levels the playing field.
That was really fun to watch. It was a really cool morning of watching. The other race that I think that gives you something to draw on when you look at a Nicola Spirig as a gold medalist, silver medalist, right? Considered one of the premier runners in the sport, and you're doing the head-to-head battle with her, and she passes you in the run, which at that point, 99.9% of the world is thinking it's done. And here comes Pat Matthews to pass her back. I mean, that's got to be something that in the recesses, you can hold on to that and grab onto that whenever you're thinking, okay, someone's going to catch me. It's like, wait a second, Nicola Spirig. I ran away from Nicola Spirig. That's got to be something that is one of those moments you look back on.
Yeah, it was really special. It's one of my best marathons, obviously, and really well supported. So it always comes with a little bit of a caveat. It wasn't a real race, but the mental side of it, I think.
Real race. Actually, it's more
Knowing
than a real race, because anytime the camera's on and there's only two of you, there's a lot more pressure there. That if you're having a bad day and there's 50 women pros there, you can sort of slink out the back, or you can do something. But there's no place to hide when there's a lot of pressure, because this is, for whatever reason, if you're having a bad day, the camera's going to be on you for all that day, because who else are they covering? There's only two of you.
Yeah, the camera never features in my thinking process. The spot, people watch it. It it doesn't necessarily it doesn't bother me. It's my own sort of personal pride.
Of
And I
course.
think in that moment, all I could control, I knew she was going to catch. Her pace was quicker, fact. Like she is catching at, I don't know what it was. I think it was like 27K or something. You know, we had people telling me this every 5 seconds. She's getting close. She's getting close. I was like, oh no, shut up. But all I could do was maintain my intensity, and I just take control. I just take that sort of control over that element, and that then sees me out. It's not like I worry about the cameras or other people, because I can only do what I can do, and if other people come past me or they don't catch me, like Anne in St George, or I don't know, who's run past me before?
Not many.
Goodness.
It's a short
I'm
list.
not sure. Anyway, maybe someone will in Nice. I don't know, but I can only do what I can do, and I think I take a lot of sort of mental, I don't know, composure from that, and just focus in on my own personal effort. Even though I'm still racing, there's definitely an element of control that I need to get the most out of myself.
So when I look at Ironman Texas, which you've won 2 years in a row now, and that's also the place where you had your awful accident there. Going back to is it hard to go back to? I mean, you got the positive of 2 amazing races that I've won, but this is also the place where freaking I nearly lost my career and almost lost my life. Do you sort of struggle with that when you go back there, or now it's just all positive because you've won those 2 major races there?
It's full of emotion, but ultimately it's very positive. I had a really great time in Texas training before the accident, and so I've got so many great memories of being in, you know, with our homestay and in the community.
Right.
My memories of the 48 hours after the accident, it's semi-irrelevant. I dealt with it a year and a bit ago when I first got there, in terms of it struck like I felt really sort of scared for my life, like irrationally. It was a bit weird, but I'm really confident in where I'm at sort of psychologically now. Like I don't find those I don't know, experiences as stressful now. So it's really nice to know that everything's sort of settled down, I guess. And actually what I still find quite interesting is it was more Hawaii, that the sort of the negative emotion actually transferred over to Hawaii, because that's where we then went, and that was where I was then sort of healing,
Right.
mentally and physically. And then obviously watching the race was incredible and being in that environment, but it was actually also quite psychologically probably quite scarring, because I then associated all of that trauma with Kona. So I think that, I mean, I've obviously talked to a professional about this, but I think that could have had some impact on me last year when I went back. But I think I've dealt with it, and I hope that in 2025 it won't be a problem.
You know, that's interesting because when you were in Kona, where you were surrounded by the triathlon world, and you've got the halo, you got everything going on. I can understand that, because you had people coming up day after day after day, and that's when you sort of connect Hawaii to the accident, even though it didn't happen in Hawaii. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I just like a neck and chest for me, luckily not a halo.
Yeah, not
but
a halo, but those
I
I
wouldn't.
remember the neck, and I saw the different scars and all over. Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm very glad that I didn't have to go through that, because that looks very
oh,
challenging.
yeah.
But yeah, no, super interesting, but hopefully not a factor. So yeah, only positive memories really from Texas. And I actually had a really bad experience there in 2023 in terms of my race, like mentality. I really struggled with the whole thing. I don't think I was fit enough. And I sort of got through it pretty grumpily. But then in this year, the bike element was so positive. I was in such a good place. I've completely changed my opinion of, how to race flat courses. And then the run, I had no idea how it was going to go because of my calf injury. So I approached that with, again, like a sort of, let's see what happens, carefree attitude. And I had constant problems, but my mentality, like my mental happiness through the race, was really positive. And that's something that I've really treasured this year. Like most of my races, I've been able to keep myself in a really positive mood. And I think that's really hard when that slips and you're racing and you're grumpy and you're sad and you're can't do this, I'm useless.
Yeah.
That's really hard to find a way out of.
So it's interesting that you say that, because we look at numbers on a piece of paper, and it's like number one next to Ironman Texas 2023, number one next to Ironman Texas 2024. It's like, okay, the Cat won both of them, but they were such different experiences. 2023, you're going through doubt. It reminds me of, I remember we were one year when Jan Frodeno won in Kona. This one year seemed like he was just sitting in the Barca lounger, like he was just controlling everything. And he goes, yeah, I almost dropped out 14 times. I was struggling the whole thing. We don't see that. You're the one dealing with it. So we don't see that. We just see that you won Texas 2 years in a row, but they were totally different experiences from your perspective.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the sort of addictive parts of this sport, isn't it? Because you hear these things and it's not until you really go through them yourself, when amateurs and everybody does a triathlon of any distance, and then you bring it up to Ironman, every race is different. You can never replicate one race in terms of your mood or in terms of your performance. I think it's just, it's really addictive because you don't know what you're going to get.
The funny part is that so many times you'll finish a race and go, my nutrition was perfect. I'm going to do exactly what I did at that race. And then you do exactly the same thing the next race and blow to the moon. It just, for whatever reason, sometimes something works and sometimes it doesn't. Kat, when you look at when you first got into this, were you thinking, okay, I'm going to be 6-7 years from now, I'm going to be a professional, high-end professional triathlete, one of the best in the world, and this is what my goal is? Or were you jumping in the sport sort of just to get a feel for, hey, I'd like to be a professional athlete. Let's see where it goes.
No, neither of those. I obviously was serving full-time as a physiotherapist in the British Army in 2015, 16. And in 2017, I got the opportunity to do less physio and more triathlon. No, is that right? 2017? Sorry, 2019. Goodness.
2019. Yeah.
I was 2015, 16, 17, 18, 2019, I was able to do more triathlon, less physio. And it just coincided that I did one race where I then got my professional license in the same sort of period, like April time of that 2019 year. So then it just happened that because I had more time to train, I thought, well, I'll take the pro license just because I'm good enough to race in the field, so I'll see how that goes, but with no indication or inclination that I was going to be a professional athlete. It was just, that's the field that I'm best suited to in terms of, level of performance. So I'm going to race at the top level. And then qualifying for Nice World Champs in my first pro race, I didn't think a top 30 for me at Nice was going to be outstanding, and I came 16th and I couldn't believe it. And so then obviously COVID and everything, but it's never about I've never had these biggest aspirational dreams. It's only ever for me about one step at a time, and just if this race was 250 watts, next race I'm going to try and push 260 watts. Like if that marathon was 248, this marathon I'm going to do a 242. It's just these little steps for me that second at St George, okay, I need to win now. Next race, I'm going to try and win. So yeah, it's the little steps that motivate me rather than these massive, lofty, wild dreams.
So you've won Ironman races, you've won Ironman 70.3 races, have not won a world championship yet. What would it mean for you to win Ironman World Championship at Nice?
I'll tell you when I do it.
I'll hold you there.
I find that question impossible to answer because you can't truly know what it means, I don't think.
No,
naively maybe until it happens. So all I know is that I'm so proud of my commitment to training over the last couple of years, and that makes me so happy that I just feel like I'm in a really great place to try. And hopefully what will be.
The hard part about the sport, like you mentioned, is there's highs and lows. There's going to be races that are not good. There's going to be races where you have a cramp, like you had in issue and calf, and it's how you come back from that. Like you said, little by little. It's like if I ran a 248, I want to run a 246. If I had a problem with my calf, I got to fix the calf. So it's staying in the moment, staying in the immediacy, and not getting too far ahead of yourself, which I think has been, you've been really, really good at that.
Well, don't know. We'll see. I've definitely had my slip ups. I think Kona last year still bothers me.
What bothers you?
Kona last year.
Oh,
but yeah, disappointment, and I hope never to be in that situation again. But like we've said, you never quite know.
The nice thing is you got Nice this year, and then Kona's next year. You got a full year to think about going back to Ironman World Championship in Kona, and then hopefully by then you're looking at, can I win back-to-back titles? I'll take this minute by minute and see how that goes.
Yeah, hopefully that will be the aim.
Exactly. Kat, thanks so much for taking so much time. Always such a pleasure to chat with you. One other quickie. How important is, everybody has somebody who's there for them no matter what. And obviously we've seen Mark, and he is there no matter what. How important has he been during this whole journey?
Yeah. If you were to be, there's a very black and white way of describing it. I think it's just 100% important. It's fundamental to my performance. And I always sort of scoffed at things like that. Like, surely it's just you, what athletes, it's only them. But since the accident specifically, I could not be where I am today without his help. And that's like daily help.
Right.
And even if he's not around, it's still just the emotional support. There's so much to it. So what I really value now more than, I ever have is him, his support, but my whole sort of really close team, like my agent, Pat, my coach, Bjorn. I think everyone, like all of the sponsors that I work with, those partnerships are so valuable to me. Like the confidence that, for example, Andreas at Canyon gave me when I was sat with him in Kona in a neck brace, he didn't even blink an eye. He didn't even cross his mind that I wouldn't be back trying to win a world champs, and there was me barely able to see. And so those relationships, it's not just Mark, even though he is the crucial player. It's all of those other things that I find myself so grateful for.
It's always so cool when you have people who believe in you sometimes before you believe in yourself, and who know that, hey, you're going to recover and you're going to be great, when you're thinking, how am I going to get out of bed tomorrow? I'm here at Huggos. How am I going to walk to the street to get in a car? You're dealing with that, and they're going, we know you're going to be back. We know you're going to be better than ever. And they do. I love seeing that. That is great. Kat, you are the best. Thank you so much for taking so much time. Give our best to Mark, and we'll hopefully chat with you after Nice.
Yeah, hopefully. I hope you have a good couple of weeks. See you soon, hopefully.
Kat Matthews has been our guest, everybody. Again, Breakfast with Bob, our Nice World Championship edition. Hold on. We'll be right back.